It was an old house, the kind that creaked with the weight of years. Ivy crawled up its brick walls, and the windows were veiled in a thick layer of dust. Sarah had inherited the house from an estranged aunt she barely remembered, but when the lawyer called, informing her of the inheritance, she felt compelled to visit, to see for herself. The house smelled of mildew and decay, but as she explored the rooms, something else lingered, a sense of presence, of something watching. Sarah shook it off as the house settling, or maybe just her overactive imagination. One night, as she sat in the grand old living room, a cold draft swept through the room despite the windows being tightly shut. She stood up, the hairs on her neck rising, and saw something strange in the corner of the room. A shadow, dark, undulating, seemed to stretch unnaturally across the floor. Her breath caught in her throat as the shadow began to shift, forming into the vague shape of a person. Then a voice, soft at first, like a whisper in the wind, reached her ears. "Leave. Before it's too late." Frozen in place, Sarah could barely breathe, her mind struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. The shadow's shape twisted and its whisper grew louder, more insistent. "Leave, or you'll never leave." Her legs finally found movement, and she backed away slowly, eyes locked on the form that now stood before her. But as she reached the door, the shadows surged forward, engulfing her in darkness. The next morning, the house was silent again. The door was locked from the inside, and Sarah was nowhere to be found. They said the house was empty. No one had lived there for years. But the neighbors swore they still heard whispers on quiet nights, carried on the wind. And sometimes, just sometimes, a shadow would appear in the window, waiting.